Late autumn was a busy time of year for the engines on the Northwestern Railway. The farmers along the line were getting the last of their produce created and shipped to the markets before the winter frost. Usually the engines could handle the extra work, but recently there had been a need to borrow one of the bigger engines to help with the extra demands. So one morning at the shunting yards, James and Edward arrived to collect their first train for the day. James gasped at what he saw lined up for them. "What is this?" he asked. "It's called a mixed traffic train," explained Edward. "Me and you are going to take these trucks along the line so they can be loaded up with the farmers' goods." "This is unacceptable," thundered James. "I demand to pull my coaches." "I'm sorry, James," said Edward, "but we can't have freight goods loaded into your passenger coaches." "Which is the point. I am a fine passenger engine, only to pull very important people like our railway directors." Edward chuckled. "Sounds like you are poorly designed then, if you can only handle one type of cargo." James was offended. "Poorly designed? I'll show you." And so James and Edward were coupled up to the train. Edward wanted to be up front so he could help guide James down the track, but James refused to couple himself to anything that wasn't his passenger coaches. Once everything was ready, the duo pulled out of the yard and onto the main line. However, James would not stop grumbling and moaning all the way down the line. "Are we there yet? I hate going this slow." Edward tried his best to tolerate these compliments. "I hope you're watching the track, James," he warned him. "I don't need to," he boasted. "I'm a sleek, top-of-the-line passenger engine with my latest red paintwork that allows me to travel without looking down at the tracks even once." "James, I have my blue paintwork," he explained, "and besides, it's very dangerous not to keep an eye out. You don't know what's up ahead." James grumped. "Only slow trains who hardly stare at the countryside will say that." It was clear that James had no clue what he was saying, and Edward was regretting letting James go out front. They stopped at stations and farms along the line, picking up and dropping off produce as they went. The constant going and stopping bothered James a lot. "This is ridiculous," he complained. "Why do we have to keep doing this?" "Because, James," began Edward, "there's a lot of farms along the line that need us to help spread their goods throughout the community. You may not like it, but goods trains are just as important as your passenger services." For a moment, Edward thought that James might have lightened up, but he just grumbled more. "Nonsense! If they wanted to spread their goods, they should use trucks and leave us with the passenger trains." "But James, think about it. It would take many trucks to move the amount of goods we carry in a single train, and the roads around here can't handle that kind of traffic." But James wouldn't listen, and they started off with a nasty jolt. Edward wasn't sure, but he thought he heard a cracking sound in the coupling between them. Down the line, a signal was set to danger. But wanting to get his jobs done quickly, James completely ignored it. Thankfully, Edward saw it as they zoomed past. "James, we need to stop! That signal was set to danger." "Nonsense! My driver would have applied my brakes if something was wrong." Edward desperately tried to apply his brakes. "Oh, please slow down! We need to stop! We have passengers on board." But James would not listen, and he pulled even harder. "Come on! I want to get this job done quickly!" James had pulled so hard that the coupling between him and Edward finally broke free, and he sped down the line. I'm free! I'm gonna go back and get my passenger coaches! But his joy didn't last for long. James forgot that he was speeding faster and faster, and he went too quickly and he crashed onto his side. Ow, yuck! Someone help me! Edward managed to slow down to a stop. Stay right there, James. I'll go get help. Don't leave me here! I'm sorry, James. I can't stay. The passengers need to get to their stations. Don't go anywhere. Very funny. And so Edward carried on without James. Down the line, Edward met up with Henry. What's the danger, Henry? That silly cow has escaped from its field again. Do keep an eye out for it, will you? Okay, thank you, Henry. Edward worked very hard for the rest of the day and managed to deliver their train of goods on his own. James, on the other hand, could do nothing except watch the other engines pass. I've got mud on my shiny red paintwork! Later that day, Thomas arrived with the breakdown train to help lift James back onto the tracks. The Fat Controller had also arrived. He was not happy at all. James, what were you thinking going past a danger signal? James said nothing. Well, James, I hope you learned a valuable lesson about observing signals and not just relying on your coaches all the time, because I'm sadly going to have to report this accident to the railway directors. Again, James said nothing. Once he was on the line, Thomas pulled him to the steamworks to be cleaned and checked over, but James just sulked all the way. At the end of the day, the Fat Controller had the engines gathered up at the sheds. Well done, everyone, for putting in hard efforts today. Unfortunately, it looks like you'll have to run the railway with just the four of you for a little while longer, as James will be needing to go back to the steamworks for repairs. But rest assured, he will be back to help us again in the future. Well, let us hope that he has a better time when he comes back in future, said Henry. And I'm sure we hope so too.